Hello, my name is Emily Greenfield, and the title of this lecture is The Aging Network. In the next few minutes, I'll explain in my own words what the Aging Network means. To begin, let's start with a story. Once upon a time, there was a president named Lyndon Baines Johnson. It was 1965, and he just helped pass a major piece of legislation called the Great Society legislation. As part of this legislation, there was an act included called the Older Americans Act. This established the Administration on Aging within the U.S. government. Before, there was no Administration on Aging or any specified unit within the U.S. federal government to focus on older adults specifically. The Administration on Aging was under the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare at that time, and the act also called for every state to create a unit on aging for their own, so that state government would have an office specifically devoted to aging, similar to the federal government. This act really solidified government's role in looking out for the interests of aging families and individuals. It had broad, sweeping goals, including ensuring adequate income in later life, optimizing health among older adults, helping older adults obtain adequate housing, providing opportunities for employment, even giving them meaningful pursuits, and, of course, providing and facilitating appropriate community services. Here's a quote from the president at that time. Quote, "No longer will older Americans be denied the healing miracle of modern medicine. No longer will illness crush and destroy the savings that they have so carefully put away over a lifetime, so that they might enjoy dignity in their later years. No longer will young families see their own incomes and their own hopes eaten away simply because they are carrying out their deep moral obligations to their parents and to their uncles and to their aunts. And no longer will this nation refuse the hand of justice to those who have given a lifetime of service and wisdom and labor to the progress of this progressive country." Initially, this act defined an older adult as anybody aged 65 plus, but it was changed through a reauthorization to the Older Americans Act in 1970 to the age 60 and older, recognizing the greater need for people in the young old age group to prepare for early retirement. To engage in retirement planning earlier. It was also initially passed in the 1960s to support older adults regardless of other vulnerabilities. It was just focused on serving people above a certain age. But in 1992, again, an amendment was made to encourage people implementing the goals of the act to focus on elders in the most need, such as by having a low income or being from a racial ethnic minority group. So, in summary, the Older Americans Act of 1965 formalized government's role in supporting older adults. It created a federal unit, the Administration on Aging, that was charged with collecting stats on aging nationwide, as well as supporting local efforts through funding, training, and research. Today, the Administration on Aging is part of the larger Administration on Community Living. The Administration on Community Living has two main parts, one being the Administration on Aging, and the other being the Administration on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. It goes to show how the government has increasingly focused on greater synergies between programs and services to support older adults with programs and services to support people of all ages with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The Act in 1965 also called upon the governor of each state to specify a group in charge of aging. That's to create a state unit on aging. And in New Jersey today, this is the department, is within our Department of Human Services. Within our Department of Human Services, we have a division on aging, which used to be under the Department of Health, but was changed to the Department of Human Services when Governor Christie started his administration. In other states, the State Unit on Aging is a completely independent office. It's not embedded within a larger department, as is the case in New York. In New York State, they have the State Office on Aging that exists separate from Human Services or Health. Now, it's important to realize that the Act has been amended and arguably strengthened since its initial passage in 1965. And one example of this happened in 1973, where the Act specified that states should divide their area into more regional planning and service areas, and to designate an area agency on aging for each of these more local regions to develop, coordinate, deliver, and plan programs and services for older persons at the local level, with a focus on helping older adults live with independence and dignity in their own homes and communities. And so local area agencies on aging receive money from the state, which receives money from the federal government, and part of the job of the local area agency on aging is to disperse the federal money as well as other monies to frontlines organizations, which could be other more local layers of government, such as municipalities, and it also can be independent nonprofits. In New Jersey, our area agencies on aging correspond to each of our 21 counties. But in other states, area agencies on aging, or AAAs, are defined by other geographic boundaries. For example, in California, the entire metro area of San Francisco is considered the catchment area for their local area agency on aging. It's also important to note that some area agencies on aging are called Aging and Disability Resource Connections, or ADRCs. Again, this is part of the push from the federal government to better connect aging services with disability services. And so when New Jersey received a little bit of support from the federal government to implement ADRCs in our state, they layered the ADRC onto each area agency on aging. So now the area agency on aging has kind of a dual identity as both the AAA as well as the ADRC, or the Aging and Disability Resource Connection. It's also important to note that AAAs can be their own independent organizations. In New Jersey, though, it's typically the County Office on Aging and is considered part of county government. However, AAAs can be an independent nonprofit that receives the contract with the state to serve as a AAA, and it also can be a tribal organization. So what are the key functions of AAAs? Well, first of all, as I mentioned in the previous slide, it's to administer funds from the Federal Older Americans Act, which is money given to the state, and then the state then gives it to these more regional entities, which are the AAAs. AAAs also coordinate all programs regardless of the funding source. So AAAs are really supposed to serve as a one-stop shop for information for everybody living in that region, or in New Jersey for everybody in the county. And so part of what they're charged to do is to know about the whole range of services available for older adults and families in the county, so that when they get phone calls from people asking what's available, they're really savvy to be able to connect people to what is already there. AAAs also have a planning function. They're charged with preparing an area plan every 3 years and to evaluate the strategies under the plan over time. And then they also have a community outreach function. They're charged with conducting public education and advocacy around aging in their local region. Before concluding, I just want to highlight a few results from a 2013 survey of area agencies on aging. This survey involved asking all AAAs across the U.S. to answer some questions about who they serve, how they're funded, and what types of services they provide. Here are some key highlights from this survey. First of all, about 3/4 of AAAs serve younger consumers, meaning people under the age of 60. This is including mostly younger people with disabilities. And this goes to show this growing trend of linking aging services with disability services. This was up from 9% in 2008. It could also include sometimes veterans of all ages, as well as caregivers. So this is a pretty big change for area agencies on aging that's just taken place within the past 5 years, or 5+ years. 90% deliver at least one evidence-based health promotion program or service, and this is up from only 56% in 2008. So evidence-based health programs are like Matter of Balance, these kind of manualized programs that encourage older adults to engage in healthy behaviors like health promotion or better manage their chronic conditions such as diabetes. So this is another big shift that has occurred pretty recently in what AAAs do. About 1/3, excuse the typo there, work as the entity involved with Medicaid managed care, and this is the focus of the assigned readings, of two of the three assigned readings for this module. This involves doing intake and ongoing assessments with people, providing caregiver support, care management, support around transitions of care as people move from one care setting to another, like hospital to subacute to home. And it means that they're kind of the contracting agency to receive money from Medicaid to provide these services for people who qualify for Medicaid, which involves both being sick enough or functionally impaired enough, as well as being low income enough. And on average, they receive about 40% of their budget from the Older Americans Act, which really goes to show that the federal money is not even more than half of how they get their funds. They're really leveraging dollars from a lot of different sources, such as nominal fees they might charge people, or fundraising and donations, or more local sources of money. For example, New Jersey county tax money to do what they're supposed to do. So this concludes the lecture on the Aging Network. Here is again the image of what the Aging Network is, involving the federal government supporting state units on aging, which then supports these local area agencies on aging, which then are in a position to support frontlines organizations working with older adults, families, and communities.